If you want to completely exhaust a Siberian Husky, putting them on a treadmill for like 5 miles is probably the worst thing you can do.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a terrible idea.
Right. I mean, if you really want them to sleep soundly, you are actually much better off forcing them to use their nose, like having them find a piece of string cheese hidden behind your sofa.
It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it? But it is honestly one of the most fundamental truths about this breed.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are super thrilled you're joining us. Today we're digging into a really fascinating transcript from the VitalPet Podcast.
Yeah, their episode focused entirely on Siberian Husky health, specifically looking at, how they exercise, how they manage weight, and really why they behave the way they do.
Exactly. And our mission for you today is to bust the massive misconceptions around how these iconic dogs actually operate. We want to decode their incredibly unique biology.
And figure out what they truly need to be healthy and fulfilled. Plus, stop them from driving their owners absolutely up the wall.
It's a conversation that really needs to happen because the gap between what people expect from a husky and what the dog actually is, well, it causes so much stress.
It really does. I mean, people bring a husky home expecting explosive speed. They picture this like furry race car tearing up the dog park.
But the absolute truth of this breed isn't speed at all. It is pure, unadulterated endurance. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the source material makes a really bold claim early on.
Oh, the 3-hour walk thing?
Yes. It says you can take a husky on a 3-hour brisk walk, and you will be the one sweating and panting. Meanwhile, the dog looks at you like you haven't even started yet.
It's so true. And to understand why a modern husky sitting in someone's living room acts this way, we have to travel back in time.
Right. We're talking about the Chukchi people, yeah.
Exactly. The Chukchi people of northeastern Siberia who basically developed these dogs over centuries. If you want to understand the dog in your house, you have to understand the job they were originally interviewed for.
And the Chukchi didn't need a dog to haul a massively heavy load over a short distance, did they?
No, not at all. That was not the assignment. The job was covering these incredibly long stretches of frozen, completely desolate terrain, day after day.
Just nonstop walking and pulling.
Yeah, pulling a manageable load at a very steady, highly efficient pace.
So the key word here isn't power, it's efficiency.
That is the defining word for their entire biology. I mean, think about the environment. A sled dog that burns all of its energy and exhausts itself in the first hour is completely useless.
I'm probably dead, right? I mean, on a multi-day journey across the Siberian ice, you can't just crash.
Exactly. Over generations, they developed a metabolism that is quite literally a masterclass in conserving energy.
Wait, I want to pause right there.
Yeah.
The transcript touched on this, and it completely blew my mind.
The metabolic shift.
Yes. When you say their metabolism conserves energy, we aren't just talking about them being generally fit, are we? There's an actual biological mechanism at play here.
Oh, absolutely. It's really fascinating. So in most mammals, including humans, and like most other dog breeds, when we exercise, our bodies burn glycogen.
Right, which is a stored form of carbohydrate.
Exactly. And when that glycogen runs out, we hit a wall, we get fatigued, our muscles start to ache, and we just have to stop and recover.
But scientists who study sled dogs have found something different, right?
Yeah, they found that huskies have this sort of metabolic switch. After a certain point of exercise, instead of just depleting all their glycogen and crashing, their bodies shift.
They shift to what?
They start pulling energy directly from fat and protein in a way that doesn't actually deplete their reserves.
Oh, wow. So they basically have a biological cheat code.
That is a brilliant way to picture it, yeah.
While a normal dog is running on a standard battery that drains to 0, the husky switches over to this, hybrid engine that just regenerates its own power.
Spot on. They are altering how their cells process fuel so they don't fatigue. And that is exactly why a standard 20-minute walk around the neighborhood doesn't even register as exercise to them.
It's basically like asking an Olympic marathon runner to be satisfied with a slow stroll down the driveway to check the mailbox.
That's a perfect analogy. And this is where so many new owners hit a wall. I mean, they take the dog for a walk, they put in the time, and they come home totally exhausted.
But the husky is just pacing the living room, staring at them.
Right. And the owner thinks the dog is being stubborn or hyperactive or difficult.
But it's not defiance. It's just their cellular biology working exactly as it was designed to. Their output is mechanically built to be measured in hours, not minutes.
Exactly.
So if we can't physically outlast them unless you happen to run ultramarathons every morning, how do we actually tire them out? The source material pivots to a concept that I found incredibly helpful.
Separating the physical from the mental.
Yes. Separating physical tiredness from mental fulfillment.
This is the massive paradigm shift every husky owner needs to make. Physical exhaustion and mental fulfillment are two completely different buckets.
Okay, 2 buckets. Tell me more about that.
Well, you can easily drain a husky's physical bucket by running them, but if their mental bucket is still full, they're still going to be totally wound up.
So just putting them on a physical treadmill of endless running isn't the answer. I always assume that if a dog has boundless energy, the solution is just boundless running.
Yeah, run them until they drop. But that's the trap. If you just run a husky more and more, you aren't actually tiring them out.
You're just building a better athlete.
Exactly. You are just conditioning a super athlete. You're creating a dog that needs 10 miles to feel tired instead of 5. The quality and structure of the exercise matter significantly more than just the sheer volume.
Okay, so what does that structured variety actually look like in the real world?
You want to think in terms of like a weekly menu of activities rather than one exhausting daily run. A good routine blends completely different types of exertion.
Like mixing up cardio and weightlifting for a person.
Basically, yeah. A jog one day, maybe off-leash time in a securely fenced area the next. Then hikes that incorporate elevation changes to work different muscle groups and short bursts of structured obedience training.
But the crown jewel of tiring out a working dog is scent work. Right.
Without a doubt, scent work is everything.
I have to admit I was highly skeptical when I read this in the source. You're telling me that hiding some treats or a favorite toy around the living room is going to tire them out more than a 5-mile run?
I know. It sounds completely ridiculous.
It really does. How is sniffing around a couch exhausting?
You have to look at the neurology of a dog. A massive portion of a dog's brain, specifically the olfactory bulb, is dedicated entirely to processing smell. It is exponentially more powerful than ours.
Right, their sense of smell is legendary.
Exactly. So when a dog is actively sniffing, parsing out different scents, and tracking a hidden object, their brain is just firing on all cylinders. That level of intense cognitive focus burns an incredible amount of glucose in the brain.
So they are literally thinking themselves into exhaustion.
Yes. It's the equivalent of you sitting down to take a 3-hour advanced calculus exam. You haven't moved from your chair, but by the end of it, you are completely wiped out mentally.
Oh, wow, that makes so much sense. And it really reframes a lot of the stereotypical bad husky behavior we hear about.
The destruction, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're listening to this right now while looking at a chewed-up coffee table or remembering the time your dog dug a crater in the backyard, they aren't actually trying to be a bad dog, are they?
Not at all.
They are essentially just an unemployed genius with way too much free time acting out.
What's fascinating here is that perfect description you just gave. Look at their breeding again. These dogs had to problem solve in incredibly difficult, dangerous environments.
Navigating ice flows and finding safe paths, right?
Yeah, their brains are wired to work and solve puzzles. So when you take that highly intelligent, athletic brain and give it absolutely nothing to do, it finds its own job.
And usually that job is disassembling your sofa.
Sadly, yes. It's an unmet need looking for an outlet. Give that busy brain a puzzle to solve or a scent trail to follow, and a massive percentage of that destructive behavior just quietly fades away.
But all of this outdoor activity and intense exercise introduces some real physical risks if you do it wrong. The source material outlines a few major danger zones.
Yeah, you can't just dive in without knowing the risks.
Right. And I want to start with puppies. Because the natural instinct when you get a high-energy husky puppy is to take them out for a long jog to burn off that crazy energy.
It's a well-meaning instinct for sure, because an adult husky is a fantastic running companion. But with puppies, age is a massive non-negotiable factor.
The source specifically calls out growth plates. Can you explain the mechanics of that? Like, what actually is a growth plate and why is running so dangerous for it?
Sure. So at the ends of a puppy's long bones, like in their legs, there are these areas of soft developing cartilage. That's the growth plate.
Okay, so it's not solid bone yet.
Right. It allows the bone to grow and lengthen. As the dog matures, that soft cartilage eventually calcifies and hardens into solid bone. But before that window closes, while it's still soft, those areas are incredibly vulnerable.
And when do those plates actually close in a husky?
In medium to large breeds, those growth plates do not fully close until the dog is between 12 to 18 months old.
Wow, so if you take a 6-month-old puppy and run them for 3 miles on hard pavement.
You are subjecting that soft cartilage to repetitive, high-impact stress. It can cause microfractures, structural damage, and lead to lifelong joint deformities or early-onset arthritis.
You are literally damaging the foundation of their body.
Exactly. That's why you can't just guess when they are ready. You really have to consult a vet to ensure those plates are secure before you start forcing them to run distances on hard surfaces.
Which naturally brings up another massive geographical problem.
Yeah.
We are talking about an animal whose entire body is biologically optimized to survive freezing on the Siberian ice.
The heat issue.
Yeah. How does their body handle a Tuesday afternoon walk in July?
The heat is where a lot of new owners get caught completely off guard. That iconic, beautiful double coat is a marvel of engineering in the cold.
Because it traps the heat, right?
Right. The dense undercoat traps a layer of warm air against the skin, and the harsh outer coat blocks the wind and snow. But in the heat, that insulation becomes a genuine liability. Overheating is a massive, life-threatening risk.
I have to push back here because this raises a really tough question. If a dog's biology is so specifically tuned for the Arctic, is it even fair to keep a husky in a hot climate like Texas or Florida?
It is a totally valid question to ask. They absolutely can live happy lives in warmer climates, but it requires a fundamental lifestyle shift from the owner. You cannot treat them like a tropical breed.
So what does that lifestyle shift look like?
If you live in a hot climate, your exercise routine has to shift entirely to the coolest parts of the day. We are talking strictly early morning before the sun really beats down or well after sunset.
You can't just take them for a midday jog because it fits your lunch break.
Absolutely not. And high-intensity activities like running or frantic fetch need to be suspended entirely when temperatures climb. Plus, constant access to deep shade and fresh, cool water isn't a nice-to-have, it's mandatory.
The source had some really stark warnings about the signs of heat stress. It mentioned heavy panting that refuses to stop even when the dog is resting, wobbliness, or vomiting.
Yeah, those are severe red flags.
And the big takeaway there was that this is never a wait-and-see situation, is it?
Not at all. If you see those signs, you don't just give them an ice cube and hope they cool off. Dogs don't sweat like we do. They cool themselves primarily through panting.
And if that panting isn't enough,
If that system is overwhelmed, their internal temperature spikes dangerously fast. Wobbliness or vomiting means heat stroke is likely already happening, and that requires an immediate emergency trip to the vet.
okay, so we have to manage their joints and we have to manage their temperature. But there's a third danger zone the source mentioned, and this one isn't physical, it's behavioral.
The illusion of recall.
Yes. I hear this from husky owners all the time. They say, my dog is so smart, they know their name, they know all their tricks, but the second they are off a leash, they completely ignore me.
It's incredibly common.
Why is it so incredibly hard to get them to just come back when called?
Again, we have to respect the blueprint of the breed. Sled dogs were bred for one primary physical directive,
Yeah.
move forward independently.
Independently being the key word there.
Exactly. When a team of dogs is pulling a sled, they're often operating hundreds of feet ahead of the musher. They have to navigate obstacles, follow faint trails, and make independent decisions without waiting for a command.
So that independent drive is literally a feature, not a training flaw.
You nailed it. And when you combine that independent forward drive with a very high prey drive, because historically they sometimes had to hunt for their own meals during the summer months, you get a dog whose instincts will almost always override an obedience command.
So letting a husky off leash in an open park.
It's a recipe for heartbreak. In an unfenced, unsecured area, they generally cannot be trusted off-leash.
Not with the same confidence you might have with a golden retriever or a border collie, anyway.
Right, because those breeds were bred to work in constant eye contact partnership with a human. A husky can be perfectly trained, but if they catch the scent of a deer or spot a squirrel, centuries of survival breeding take the wheel and they will just keep going.
So responsible ownership means giving them the illusion of freedom. You use securely fenced yards, really enclosed dog parks with high fences, or you put them on a 30-foot long line while hiking.
Yes, they get to sniff and explore, but you eliminate the actual risk of the open space. You give their brain the freedom to explore, safely tethered to reality.
Okay, let's shift gears to something that surprised me in the transcript.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about their incredible metabolic efficiency, how their bodies are so good at conserving energy.
Right, the hybrid engine.
Exactly. But that efficiency is kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to their waistline, isn't it?
It really is. This raises an important question about how we feed them. That highly efficient engine means that if they aren't pulling a sled for 50 miles a day, they actually don't require as many calories as people think.
So if they slow down, the calories have to drop too.
Dramatically, if their activity level drops and you don't aggressively adjust their food intake to match that drop, they gain weight incredibly fast.
And you can't just weigh them to figure it out. The source pointed out that relying on a bathroom scale is actually quite dangerous for a husky.
It is, mostly because of the coat. That thick double coat acts like a very fluffy disguise. A husky can look deceptively lean and athletic visually, even if they are carrying 5 or 10 pounds of extra fat underneath all that fur.
Which is a huge amount of weight for a dog.
Exactly. And you can't trust the scale alone because muscle mass and frame size vary so much between individual dogs.
This is where body condition scoring comes in. The source gave a really fantastic tactile guide for how to actually check your dog's weight, because you literally have to use your hands.
You really do. Body condition scoring is about feel and geometry, not a number on a digital scale.
Let's walk through the mechanics of that. First, the source says to place your hands gently on the sides of their rib cage. You shouldn't have to press hard through the fur and fat to find the ribs.
Right, you should be able to feel them easily under a very thin layer of padding.
Second, if you stand over the dog and look down, you should see a clear, visible waist tapering inward behind the rib cage.
And third,
Looking from the side, their abdomen should tuck upward toward their back legs rather than hanging flat and level with their chest.
that's the perfect checklist. If you have to dig your fingers in to find a rib, or if they look like a solid cylinder from above, extra weight has quietly crept on.
And for this breed, that matters immensely, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Carrying excess weight puts a devastating amount of strain on their joints. For an animal whose entire joy in life comes from movement, joint pain from being overweight can quietly ruin their quality of life long before they get old.
Which leads me to a massive debate in the dog world. And I have to call a timeout here because I need you to explain this. The source material claims that a husky can thrive living in an apartment.
I know, people always argue about this.
How is that physically possible? We just spent the last 10 minutes talking about how they are endurance athletes built for the frozen tundra. Wouldn't a massive backyard inherently be better for them than a 600 square foot apartment?
It sounds completely contradictory, I admit. But you have to separate physical space from mental engagement. Think about what a dog actually does in a big backyard when they are completely alone.
I mean, they usually just sniff a bush and then lay down on the patio.
Exactly. Space does not equal engagement. A husky left alone in a massive backyard for 10 hours a day has zero mental stimulation.
They just get bored.
They get bored, they get frustrated, and that's when they start digging to china or chewing the siding off the house.
I see.
Now compare that to a husky in a small apartment. That apartment dog has an owner who is forced to be intentional. Because they don't have a yard, they have to take the dog out for a morning jog.
They have to do like 20 minutes of indoor scent work.
Right. And they take them to a secure park for a long line hike in the evening. That apartment dog is getting vastly more physical and mental fulfillment than the dog rotting from boredom in a mansion's backyard.
Routine over real estate. I love that phrasing. It's entirely about the owner's commitment to the daily routine, not the square footage of the property.
Precisely. If the routine is there, the dog will happily sleep on your apartment rug for the rest of the day.
So, as we look at the big picture of a husky's life, how do all these needs evolve? Because a puppy and a senior dog obviously aren't operating on the same level.
The approach definitely has to shift with their life stages. Puppies have all the enthusiasm in the world, but incredibly vulnerable joints, so they need shorter, highly structured sessions focused on obedience and play with plenty of rest.
And then as they mature into adulthood,
They reach their peak metabolic capacity. That's when you build out that robust weekly routine of hikes, running, and scent puzzles.
and what happens in the senior years? It's natural for them to slow down, but the source had a very specific warning about how endurance breeds handle aging.
This is critical. Activity naturally drops as they age, but owners must stay incredibly alert to changes in mobility. The thing about endurance breeds is that stoicism is literally bred into them.
Meaning they hide their pain.
Yes. A sled dog that whines and stops working at the first sign of discomfort wasn't kept in the breeding pool. They have an unbelievably high threshold for pushing through pain.
So they won't necessarily limp or cry out to tell you they are hurting.
Rarely. The signs of fatigue or joint pain in an older husky are incredibly subtle. It might just be a slight hesitation before jumping into the car or a really subtle change in their walking gait.
Or maybe lagging behind on a route they usually pull you on.
Exactly. Or even just sleeping slightly longer after a routine hike.
And the warning from the transcript is, don't just dismiss it. Don't just say, oh, they're just getting old and slowing down.
Right. Never write it off as just old age. Those subtle signs are often the only way an endurance dog will tell you they are in pain, and it absolutely warrants a conversation with a vet to manage their joint health.
So what does this all mean? When we pull all these threads together, the Siberian history, the metabolic cheat codes, the brain-draining scent work, the heat risks, and the hidden weight traps, what is the ultimate goal for someone sharing their life with one of these incredible animals?
The overarching philosophy isn't just exhausting the dog with pure, relentless mileage. That approach just creates a super athlete and a very exhausted human.
Nobody wants that.
Right. The true goal is finding a rhythm. It's about finding that perfect blend of physical movement, complex mental engagement, and safe environments.
We are fulfilling them, not just tiring them out. That's the paradigm shift right there. When you stop trying to drain their physical battery and start trying to fulfill their biological purpose, the payoff is a dog that is physically fit, mentally settled, and a genuinely calm companion in your home.
You combine that fulfillment with consistency, and you get a balanced husky that is an absolute joy to live with, whether you're in a cabin in the woods or a tiny apartment in the city.
Which brings us to the end of today's deep dive. If you take one thing away from our discussion today, let it be that massive shift in mindset.
It really changes everything about how you view their behavior.
It really does. If you're a husky owner or thinking about becoming one, step away from the frantic idea of exhausting a hyper dog and step into the thoughtful practice of mentally and physically fulfilling an endurance athlete.
It's just a much better way to live with them.
Absolutely. And before we go, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to ponder.
Oh, I love these. Let's hear it.
We talked a lot today about how a husky's destructive behavior, the chewing, the digging, the pacing, is really just a mismatch between their ancestral, evolutionary purpose and their modern, confined environment.
Right. They act out because their biology is screaming for an outlet they just don't have, biological need going completely unmet.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder, if a dog acts out when its evolutionary needs are ignored, how much of our own human stress, our modern anxiety, or our daily frustrations are actually just our own brains and bodies screaming for an outlet?
Oh, wow. That is a phenomenal parallel to consider.
Are we just like the husky? Are we missing an evolutionary need for movement or complex problem solving or a deep connection to nature that our modern screen-filled world has completely forgotten to provide us?
I think you might be onto something there. Maybe we all need a little more mental fulfillment and a lot less treadmill.
Something to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep exploring the world around you, and the next time you see a Siberian Husky trotting effortlessly past you at the park, remember, you aren't looking at a furry race car. You're looking at a masterpiece of endurance.
Thanks for listening.